Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pop Go the Writers.
Didn't. There we go.
Yeah, lean into it, man.
I'm just thinking people don't want to see this. I need to put on a headphone.
Maybe.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing, Paul?
It's good to be me.
That seems a little forced, Paul.
I took my car into the shop this week, and the repairs are going to be more expensive than I thought, and it's taking longer than I thought, so I had to rent a car. And so I'm like hearing the register, cha-ching, 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 going. But yeah, what are you going to do?
Such is life. Cars are important, especially in cities like yours and mine, where
yes,
public transit is not that great.
Yeah, so. But you've got a subway.
Nowhere near me.
Oh, well, you got to remember, I haven't been near you in 20 years. So
yeah, I need a car to drive to the subway.
Yeah, and I keep forgetting that ride shares might be cheaper than cabs, but they ain't cheap.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. Well, you probably want to hear less about our personal problems and more about the what's going on in the world of pop culture and whatnot. Sad to say, Paul nor I got a chance to get over to see ShangChi this weekend. So we will save that for next weekend. But everything we're hearing about it is the movie is a frickin' juggernaut. I mean, box office on it. Going into it, people were kind of, hey, let's keep our expectations, in check here. I mean, 35 to 40 million was the early thing. Then word of mouth and buzz started going. Then it was maybe 40, 45 million. And that's about the last I heard before the weekend started.
Yeah.
Then they made 8.9 million, I think it was, opening night, 8.8 million. Another 17 on Friday. They're looking at around 71 million for the 3-day weekend. And, Disney is estimating it at 83.5 for the 4-day. But industry insiders are saying it could even top out at 90 million. Which
shame no one wants to go to see this movie.
Yeah. And then you throw another 56 million on top of for international box office. They're doing just fine.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah. So I don't think we're going to hear suddenly that Disney's freaking out and pushing Eternals back. I think it's going to be fine.
Yes. And knock wood that the that people are being sensible and covering their faces and whatnot in the theaters. So
this is a good time to wear your Spider-Man mask to the theater.
There you go. If they'll, of course, you remember when they wouldn't let you wear masks in the theater because of the Aurora shooter.
Yeah.
You couldn't wear costumes or makeup.
Yep.
All our cataclysms are colliding.
They are. I mean, just this week alone, and we're going to get a little topical here, but you got trying to end a war at the same time. We've got hurricanes hitting that just don't seem to want to stop once they hit land. I mean, when New Jersey had like 20, 30 people killed through flooding, the subways in New York got flooded, which I feel sorry for anybody who got hurt, but at the same time, this might be the cleanest the subways have been in New York in years. I mean, it's bad.
That's probably true.
Yeah, this will be the first time that the national smell or the city-wide smell isn't urine. It's now stale water.
Fish.
Yeah,
that was the one that was getting me. Was seeing people taking pictures where there were these fish basically stuck by the storm drains, well away from the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy. There was pictures of Philadelphia of people jumping off of overpasses into flooded highways.
And oh my gosh, if any of our listeners are contemplating that, don't. It's like a cesspool.
Well, not only that,
it's not clean water.
But you also don't know how far down the car, because there are cars in there.
Yeah, and some of them might float up a little as they. Yeah.
Or you might happen to dive on top of a semi.
Yeah. But what we're saying is, freeway diving. Don't do it.
Yes.
Little Heather's reference there, it's tying back into the pop.
Yep. So it's pretty crazy out there right now.
So,
I mean,
dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, and then on top of all this, we still have the Delta variant out there, and then I heard something about a Mu variant.
Really?
Yes, I didn't even know there was a Greek symbol of Mu.
Yeah, MU.
Yeah. Wasn't familiar with that one. We normally don't get to it.
Yeah, that's true. I missed the Lambda variant, though.
The Epsilon, we're done. Yeah, Mu. Yes. So.
Now, if it was the Omega Mu variant, then we'd been in Revenge of the Nerds territory.
That's right, Omega Mu. That was what it was.
Yes, Lambda, and Omega Mu.
Talk about your problematic movies.
Oof, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Try to rewatch that nowadays and just cringe, especially if you're like showing it to your children for any reason, teenage children.
Yeah. Don't do this.
It's a great movie when we were young, Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah. Well, I think of stuff like Porky's as well, where you like it was a big team movie, and you're like, oh my God, never show that to your children.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the 70s, the 80s, man. There were some.
Oh yeah.
Jeez. How did we survive?
Yes, and
kids are so coddled today.
Yeah. Why, in my day, we shoved red hot pokers right in our eyeballs, and we liked it.
My grandmother, rest her soul, had two sayings she always said.
Yeah.
One was, better than being slapped on the belly by a wet fish. The other, better than being poked in the eye with a sharp stick. And I finally, after years and years of hearing that, turned around and went, what the hell was it like growing up for you?
Yeah.
Because everything is better than being poked in the eye with a sharp stick. That's not a high bar.
And I'm interested to hear you say that, though, because in my family, which apparently came over from Scotland with my grandmother, was, well, it beats a sharp stick in the eye.
Yep, my grandmother was from Ireland.
So, okay, maybe that's the Celts have a thing for eye sticking.
What's funny is my grandmother was born in County Cork. My grandmother was born in County Cork, Ireland. My entire life, I thought of her as being Irish.
Yeah.
Tiny little redheaded woman named Phyllis. My grandfather was Scottish. He was a Henderson clan. But all her life, I never met him. He passed before I was born.
Oh.
But good pop culture joke.
Unfortunate timing. Yeah.
In her late 90s or in her early 90s, later in her life, when I made a comment about her being Irish, she looked at me and she goes, I'm not effing Irish. Like, what? She goes, I'm not effing Irish. And she didn't censor herself.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, what are you? She goes, I'm English. I'm like, you were born in Ireland. She goes, because that's when my mother stopped.
Okay. Well, that's like interesting. With my grandmother, it was the reverse. Mm-hmm. She was actually from the north of England. But as far as she was concerned, she was born in the north of England, but as far as she was concerned, she was Scottish.
Yes.
And I did, again, I didn't know her very well. She passed by the time I was, I think, 5. But, you know, these are the stories that you hear through the family. And eventually I found out, you know, that she came from the north of England. And I'm like, what? That's not. This is the woman that her Scottish accent was so thick. As a child, I couldn't understand her. And she would get so frustrated that I couldn't understand a word she was saying. Yeah.
Now,
So Brian says Shang-Chi was really good.
Yes. Now I'm going to bring this all around. Watch.
Oh,
my grandmother was very big into why I got into comics.
Really?
Because my Uncle Dave, her son, is the one that bought me my first comic.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started reading them, my grandmother and her second husband, I'll throw this out there, but I'm not going to explain it, who happens to also be my uncle from my dad's side. So my mom's mother married my dad's brother.
Sure. As you do.
Yeah. So they moved to Grants Pass, Oregon, and there was this little cigar shop that sold used comics. And my grandmother decided for birthdays and Christmas and stuff, she would go and work at this guy's shop, rolling coins for him. And in exchange, he would give her the comics. So I got a lot of old 60s and 70s comics from them, from my grandmother, because she did this rolling pennies and stuff in her spare time.
Wow.
So, see, Irish grandmother, who isn't actually Irish, led me to be where I am today. See, brought it back around. Thank you. So, by the way, for anybody out there who was still wondering if the hairy arms in the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer were actually Charlie Cox, we have confirmation that they're not.
Oh, no.
Yes. Besides him actually coming out right afterwards and saying, I'm not in the trailer.
Right.
Not saying he's not in the movie. He said he's not in the trailer. But they're now running the trailer before IMAX movies. And in the IMAX screen, you can actually see the face. And it's the same cop that's interrogating him. He's just taken his jacket off and is on the other side of the table now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There
and
were
you know who that
running...
cop is, right? Mephisto. Tell you what I'm going to do, kid. I'm going to make you a deal.
That's right. You want out of here? I'm going to get you out of here. What you're going to do is... I don't know why Mephisto would have a northern Atlantic accent, but...
And become a carnival barker.
Yes.
Here we have a Yeah. Suddenly he goes into the Music Man. Yes. This is a genuine, bona fide... actually, what was the... bona fide, electrified, genuine, bona fide, electrified 6-car monorail.
We are completely off the rails today, but we still have people watching.
Off the monorail, if you will.
Yes. So
yes.
This may be penance for them. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. By the way, something I feel I should have done before. A little bit of a digression, but is that I should point out to everybody that the views expressed on this show are mine alone. The views expressed by me on this show are mine alone, and do not reflect those of any of my clients or my employer. And no, I've had no complaints, but I feel like I should, definitely say, because we mention the shop every once in a while.
Yeah, you have clients?
Yeah, freelance writing clients, people I write for.
I don't know. I just never considered. I have them too, I guess. I just never considered them clients.
I just wanted to differentiate between them and my, day job employers.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Folks, basically, if I say something, it's me. If Paul says something, it's Paul. Nobody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
We're not speaking on behalf of anybody. Hell, we're barely speaking on behalf of ourselves.
Most of the time, I'm surprised by what comes out of my mouth, and doubly surprised by what comes out of Dan's. It looks like he's got a pink thing in there. There it is. Anyway.
Right. Yes. I'm sure you guys would like us to get to the topic of conversation tonight, which is probably the darkest thing in the MCU so far.
And it seemed to me to go against the premise, which is one decision makes everything, one difference makes everything change.
Right.
Except
that one decision is Christine decided to go with him to the dinner.
Well, except that what I thought he and Christine were already basically broken up by the time.
In the movie, he invites her to the dinner.
And so she decided to go. Okay, maybe my complaint is completely incorrect.
I think it's because he added in the creme brulee. He remembered to mention the creme brulee for dessert.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
Yeah.
So.
This was just. Well, first thing that struck me as interesting is that this is the first one that everybody came back for.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fill-in voices. It's Tilda Swinton. It's Benedict Cumberbatch. It's Benedict Wong. It's Rachel McAdams. Right. And those are only the four that you get, besides Obeng, who's a new character, which is Ike Amati. But and then the voice on the television is actually Christine Everhart coming back. Leslie Bibb from the Iron Man movies. So they really did bring everybody back.
Yeah.
For this episode, which I think is pretty amazing. It makes you think, how many people thought this was just a really important episode? And how many have just, oh yeah, we'll do it. It's fun.
And boy, were they wrong. Well, the process may have been fun. The movie or the episode, not so fun.
Yeah, I guess no. As from an acting point of view, this would be a great episode to play in, because you're getting to take your character in a completely different direction. Poor Rachel McAdams barely had much to work with in the first movie. Here she gets to actually have a relationship with Steven. You get to see some different aspects of it. Benedict Wong still gets hardly enough lines. I mean, he really should get more. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he has something to do in Shang-Chi.
Sadly, I've already heard all the spoilers, so he does. He gets some good time in Shang-Chi. So
I feel bad for you. I am avoiding spoilers like the plague. Oh, wait, we can't use that phrase anymore because now we know people won't avoid the plague.
Let's not get political here.
That's not politics, that's public health.
Mm-hmm.
And not getting political? When have we ever not gotten political? I mean, we did talk a lot about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Well, true, but that was the show we were talking about. And if there was a show about the plague, we would talk about
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No, they took the plague out of it.
Yes. Would that more people were willing to take the plague out of reality. See, I can bring it back.
Okay.
So, anyway, Doctor Strange. Strange, like this episode.
Yes. Dr. Armani.
Dr. Armani.
I love that they brought that joke back.
And they just left, and the guy was just relentless. Never, because for a fact, he knew what was good,
Oh,
He
yeah.
knew. Yeah.
Well, he lied in the beginning.
Yeah.
When he says, tell me you're not Cagliostro, and he goes, my name is Obeng. Well, it turns out Obeng is another name for Cagliostro. That's his own freaking library. It's his own books. He wrote them. Which makes me wonder if we're going to get Ike Amati in the live action at any point
Oh, that'd
as
be nice.
Obeng or Cagliostro,
Yeah.
because Amati is mainly a voice actor, but he's got the look. I mean, he looks similar to the drawing of him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if that's how they want Obeng to look, we got the guy already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I like the fact that the accident looked almost identical to the movie. They did a really good job, even down to the car looking spot on.
Yeah.
And the way it crashed and went against the fence and stuff. But once it crashed, we kind of sped through the rest of the movie, never mentioning Baron Mordo. It's like, nope, there was no Mordo. We don't know who Mordo is. Who's Mordo?
Well,
and then we pick up after that.
Yeah, he just kind of popped into it. Went from the crash, I must seek knowledge, to he's Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts.
Now, do you think that he seemed to master the arts faster without the damage to his hands? Do you think that played a role into it?
I would think, because he's overcoming a different obstacle.
Yeah.
And he's not really even overcoming an obstacle. He's just driven. Whereas with in the movie, he's trying to disconnect his understanding that his hands will never work right again. That magic is real and can and it's not going to change it, but it's not. It's also not. His hands aren't necessary for what he needs to do, in the same way that he thinks they are. Whereas in this, all he is driven to learn time secrets.
But also, he comes into it from a different place in that he goes through all these stages beforehand of trying to get his hands fixed in ways he already understands.
Right.
Through medical, through operations and stuff like that. And then this is the last resort. With Christine's death, he's already knows there is no medical way to bring somebody back to life.
That's true. So it does shortcut up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Does absolute point... Oh, let me click that up onto the screen. Yeah. Does absolute point mean for one reality or across all realities? I'm going to say that it means for the one reality, because that point didn't happen in the main MCU reality.
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's a fixed point or absolute point in just that one reality.
Or one might call timeline.
Now, there's a possibility that it's an absolute reality because something from another reality tried to enter our Earth or our realm, and Strange is the one that stopped him. So changing time works outside, it can't undo something that happened outside of reality. Does that make any sense? If Christine didn't die, then Strange wouldn't have become Sorcerer Supreme and stopped Dormammu. Dormammu is not from our reality; he's from the other realm, the Dark Realm. So maybe that's why it became an absolute point, is that if Christine never dies, then Doctor Strange would never have happened. Therefore, you wouldn't have had somebody to stop Dormammu.
I think that's a fair. I hadn't really thought about it because it seems like the dark dimension, because it's odd when we're talking the timelines in the dimensions. How do they differ? You know, in other words, is there a dark dimension for each timeline, or is the dark dimension stand outside of those timelines?
You know how much I would love for Kevin Feige to do an Ask Me Anything?
Just so you could hit him with all your...
I'd be there all day. Just, okay. Why did Obadiah Stane want to kill Tony Stark when he was still making weapons until he was captured by the Ten Rings, which Obadiah Stane made happen? Just go down the line from there. Yeah, so many questions. Is Daredevil still in the MCU? Yeah, just hold him down.
Anything.
Do you remember that movie where they kidnapped the basketball player so they could make the game happen? It was like a Boston Celtics thing.
No, that one doesn't sound familiar.
I could see somebody trying to kidnap Kevin Feige. Not a good idea. Don't do it. And just asking him questions all day, and then letting him go.
Yeah. Yes. And it would turn out to be like the longest Chris Farley sketch ever. So remember that one time in Iron Man where Iron Man made the suit of armor? Yeah, that was cool.
So you're saying that little kid that Iron Man saves at the expo, he is Peter Parker? You're saying that? Yeah.
What about... Yeah. What's Tony Stark's favorite food? Burgers. Cheeseburgers, right?
Yes, there's pizza, but you're right about cheeseburgers. He wanted an American cheeseburger. Because there's other kind of cheeseburgers. Well, it could be a Canadian cheeseburger, but then it would have mayonnaise on it.
Yes. It might be a Royale with cheese.
Yeah. Still an American cheeseburger, though.
Shawarma isn't a cheeseburger. Here, don't be silly, Brian.
I think it can't be his favorite because he had just heard about it, but it might have become his favorite.
Eventually. Although he Happy mentions getting cheeseburgers with Tony's daughter.
Yes.
So I'm going to say it's still cheeseburgers. And boy, we have once again.
Hey, this is still pop culture. And
it's even still about the Marvel U.
Yeah, and we have a viewer participating in this, so we're fine.
Yeah.
So I think Brian's just here hoping we get back into the cheese puns. I think that's only a Jim Beard night that we do that.
Yeah.
Yep. So
we are Romano all over the place. Rome on. Oh.
Anyway, this is Paul in the penalty box for forcing a cheese joke.
And that's how it all makes sense.
Of course. All right. So, I really like Wong. I like how it seems to be cheese puns are in Gruyere tonight.
Do.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I like how Wong has pretty much become Jiminy Cricket for Doctor Strange. Don't cast that spell. I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, he's kind of always kind of had that role. Just like, Stop being stupid.
But he says things and then he leaves. He does that in the cartoon too.
Yeah.
I'm going to go put the kettle on. You should join me before you do something stupid or whatever it is. Reckless.
Yeah. Reckless.
Stupid would have been the same. It's like, yo, Wong, why don't you chill for a bit? Hang out. Make sure he doesn't do anything reckless.
Well, maybe Wong knows that whatever the reckless thing is has to happen to ultimately get to the correct end.
True. Then again, Wong can be a little reckless at times too.
What? Wong? No.
Yes, it's a rumor, but I hear that Wong can be a little reckless too. So he has friends that get him up to bad trouble, but it's all for the ice cream. Wong's favorite ice cream, of course, is
Rocky Road?
Holka Holka Burning Fudge.
There we go.
As opposed to Squirt Gravy Nuts or whatever it is.
Yeah. It seemed interesting that to me that they had the Ancient One like in this context coming back during the first movie sort of time frame, whereas maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't think she really interacted after dying. Not until the Hulk went back after the Eye of Agamotto in Endgame. Infinity War.
In Endgame, they did the stones in Endgame. I think it's because she had a feeling that Strange would do this one day.
Yeah.
So she created what she called an echo.
Right.
A version of herself set at that time, ready to go off if he showed up. If the Eye of Agamotto showed up at that point. That's my guess. Because it makes sense, because she couldn't see the future, but you see a guy who's coming to figure out a way to save his dead girlfriend. It's a pretty safe bet that if he's going to do it, it's going to be at a certain time. You can figure it out, and you're going to, if you can leave an echo of yourself, you leave an echo of yourself to try to fix it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian says, it seems like Wong is going to figure pretty prominently moving forward. Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, he's a good character.
Yeah.
I am a fan of Benedict Wong's ever since the Marco Polo series, which he was absolutely brilliant in. If you haven't watched Marco Polo on Netflix and you've got some time, go back, watch it. It was the first series I binge watched of anything. I didn't even know what binge watching was. It was late at night. Everybody had gone to bed. I was out at my computer. I went, oh, let me try this one episode. And then it was 5 a.m. I had watched all of them.
Wow. I have never, Marco Polo is one of those series that I put on my list.
Yeah.
And then every time I'm scrolling through, I'm like, I don't feel like that one yet. I've got that on each and every one of my streaming services. Things on my watch list that I really want to watch that someday, but not. Yeah. But today is not that day, as Aragorn might put it.
I have series I need to get back to. Yeah. I haven't finished Jessica Jones season 3, mainly because the second episode was so bad. Because it was just the first episode told from a different point of view.
Yeah,
and it was kind of painful. I haven't watched season 2 of The Boys yet.
Yeah.
Which I really should do before season 3. I haven't finished Altered Carbon season 2, and I loved season 1. But I just couldn't get into season 2.
Yeah, I've never seen Altered Carbon.
Go watch season 1. It is spectacular. It really, really is good sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of noir sci-fi. It's really kind of Blade Runner-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Well worth watching. But I've also read the books too. So Brian says that you've never seen him in an interview. He's hilarious. Benedict Wong.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm hoping that in the upcoming Doctor Strange movies, they just go out and get other Benedicts to bring in, like Benedict Samuel, who played the Mad Hatter on the Gotham series. Just other Benedicts to try to hoard all the Benedicts into one movie.
And then the eggs.
Yeah. Do you think anybody at Marvel went, so who are we going to have playing opposite of Benedict Cumberbatch and playing the character Wong? How about Benedict Wong? What?
And somebody's like, then there are other people going, is that a joke?
Yes,
Or
exactly.
it's a like, oh, there's an actor by the name Benedict Wong. Really?
Haven't you seen Marco Polo?
Wait, Marco?
Polo.
Thank you.
All right, back to the show.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting.
Like this.
I thought it was interesting how the episode played out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a point where he starts getting more and more powerful, and he's, I don't want to say eating
He
the
was
demons.
eating demons.
He was enveloping them or absorbing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And starting with the creepy gnome. I want the story behind the gnome.
It turns out that wasn't actually a gnome.
It was the Travelocity guy?
No, it was an elf with a gun. We just didn't get to see the gun.
Oh, from the Defenders.
Yeah. I'm lying, of course, but I just like that idea. That it wasn't just some gnome, it was the elf with the gun.
Yeah. But he passes up on the bug.
Yeah,
Takes his
like, he eventually subsumes the tentacles of Shumagorath.
Yep.
Who apparently is figuring highly into the whole multiversal thing since he was in
Captain Carter.
Was Captain Carter. But the bug was too much. That was what got me. Because he started at Shumagorath and went, nope, gotta start smaller.
Wait.
But the bug bothered him.
He started politely at Shumagorath.
Well, yes.
That's the part that I love. He thought just asking nicely would work fine.
Yes.
And they're like, demons don't bargain. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Yes. If you have the proper leverage, they bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I find it interesting that he still had the Time Stone. So does this all take place before Thanos?
Or maybe in that multiverse, Thanos was already taken care of like it was in another multiverse. How do you know? We don't know the details of each and every. I try not to assume. Because you kind of caught me on this. I try not to assume that either all this stuff has happened in this multiverse or that all the MCU happened in this particular multiverse.
It could be that he's powerful enough at this point when they show up to get the stone, he just sends them away. He ends up fighting them off.
Yeah. Or, just sends them to another planet where they... and does the time loop thing.
Yeah.
So they get zapped to another planet. They come back and go, "We want that." And they go back to the other planet, come back. It'd be great.
Or Squidward shows up and called Obsidian, and he just goes and turns them into infants.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. It's like, Thanos, come pick up your children, please.
Nice. They'll be by the coin operated horse.
Exactly. But he was taking in some serious demons.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you recognize any? Do you think any are any importance, or do you think they're just nameless demons?
I did not recognize any of them that I can remember, but I'm betting that there were some Easter eggs in there. How about you? Did you think anyone's was
None that popped out at me.
Yeah.
There was a couple that looked like pretty serious ones.
Yeah.
One almost looked like Raven from the Teen Titans.
I did see that where somebody suggested that was that it looked like I haven't seen Raven in a long time in like modern comics. And of course her shadow self didn't used to look like a raven so much as just like vaguely bird shaped with the, honestly, it to me, it looked more like a hawk or an eagle, some sort of a raptor, because it had the curved beak as opposed to the sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying George Perez couldn't draw a raven?
No, I'm saying George Perez has as more artistic license than anybody else. He's perfectly entitled. It looked great to me. I don't care that the beak wasn't raven shaped.
Now, have you noticed over the 4 episodes that the Watcher is becoming more and more tangible and easier to pick out in the backgrounds?
And to the point where he actually ended up in a conversation this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's because Strange got so powerful he could sense him.
Yeah. Yeah. But but still, they're, if you will, they are entangling him in the realities that he's supposedly just observing. So
yep. And now he's contemplating interfering.
Yep.
I could tell him, but would it be worth destroying the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of curious how all these are going to come together. And I only say that because we've seen footage of this Doctor Strange with Captain Carter, with the T'Challa Star-Lord, stuff like that. So it seems like they're all coming together.
Yeah. Well, and it they are called the Guardians of the Multiverse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does seem to make sense that they would be bringing, that the episodes would be, setting up that finale.
Yeah.
But
that's much more MCU style than it is What If style. I mean, that's never happened in the comics. There were very few books that carried over to the next issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the few I can think of is, what if Spider-Man didn't marry Mary Jane, with the next episode being, what if Spider-Man married Black Cat?
And actually there was, I don't think it was one after the other, but I think what if the Invaders had stayed together after World War II?
Remember that?
Which became the story of which became retconned into the Marvel universe, that a couple of people had tried to be Captain America after the war. And then I feel like there were 2 stories though involved in that. So yeah, but there was very little continuation. Where yeah, so
Well, I gotta
um,
admit, this
but
felt more like a what if issue to me than the previous ones.
because it got more effed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other ones were just very happy and look how great it would be if uh, um, Peggy Carter became Captain America. Well, yeah, for everybody but Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
And look how great it would be for T'Challa to become Star-Lord. Yeah, for everybody but Peter Quill.
Yeah. Peter Quill. Yeah, it's interesting how they're doing that, but the a lot of the old what ifs, it just was like, oh well, this happened there and things didn't end well. Aren't you glad that it went the way it was supposed to in our world? Which is
Right.
funny since the whole MCU thing was the heroes with problems and kind of like no final big triumph. There was always some other menace lurking around the corner. So the fact that they would, I sometimes I wonder if what if was intended to go like, oh, see, you complained about this choice we made, but look what we could have done, and you would have really hated that.
Yeah. Well, from what I read, What If was basically made for, and I'm trying to remember which writer it was. I think it was Roger Stern, who was stepping down from editing, was
Mm-hmm.
only going to freelance a few books, and he wanted books that he wouldn't have to worry about the rest of the continuity. So he pitched this idea and called it What If because Stan loved using that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought, well, this will get Stan. I'll just call it something he loves to say. What if? And so it was never meant to be anything but a fun little side project. Never meant to, but so many of the stories have been almost like trial bubbles for what they would do in the MCU later, or in the Marvel universe later on. What if Jane Foster had Thor's hammer? What if Bucky hadn't died? I mean, just all of these stories that they tried
Mm-hmm.
out, they got kind of fan reaction to. Though they seem to be doing that kind of here now too, is they're getting to try out these darker stories and getting a good idea of how fans react to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like they could go much darker, more horror based with Doctor Strange, and I don't think you're going to lose much of the Doctor Strange audience.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Me, I don't like horror movies, so you'd lose me, but
Yeah. So I think it might have been Roy Thomas. I was doing a little quick check too. I think it might have been Roy Thomas.
That's what I said.
You said Stern.
Did I say Roger Stern?
I think you
But I
did.
said Roy Thomas.
Brian?
I meant Roy Thomas.
Okay. But yeah, either way. Yeah. I think too that there are so many comic fans that think that darker versions of characters are going to be better.
Yeah.
And
You mean like Zack Snyder?
there you go. Well, I mean, even like when they did Asbats over at DC, the whole point of it was to go to go like, see dark, edgy Batman, like killer Batman is not a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the, like it, not so much with Thor or Iron Man, but definitely with Cap, when they replaced Cap with John Walker, it was definitely, oh, see, you don't want that guy. That is
Right.
definitely not the guy you want.
Yep.
So
I think some characters are meant to be darker and some are meant to be lighter or more hopeful.
yeah, more
Yeah.
inspirational
Yes.
or
Yep.
aspirational, if you will.
Yep. Now, just because you think a character is supposed to be light and hopeful doesn't mean that the writers know what the hell they're doing. And I'm thinking about the Iron Fist TV series. The Scott Buck said that he thought the character was supposed to be lighter and more more hopeful, and that it would be a lighter series than the other Netflix series. I don't think hopeful and whiny are synonymous, are they?
I let's just say, if he had been playing, if the that guy had been on Hawkeye, Hawkeye would have missed a lot. Because yes, I don't think that
Ben Jones.
Iron Fist was a particularly upbeat storyline.
No.
I mean, Danny was kind of, it started out kind of like all zen and upbeat, but
yeah, I will say that season 2 is better than season 1, but that's not a high bar. And
yeah.
the writer for season 1 left to go do the Inhumans, so just figure out what that meant.
I still feel that the failure of the Inhumans was basically because it was being pulled in 100 directions.
Well, yeah.
We're going to do a movie. No, we're not going to do a movie. We're going to do a TV show. Oh, well, we've just barely introduced the Kree. So what are we going to do about that? And it was just, and then the fact that they went, and let's save on the special effects budget by shaving Medusa's head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is just, taking out one of the key characters.
Yep.
One of the key visual elements to a character. Yeah, it just.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they save money by not having to write Black Bolt any lines.
He never had any lines.
He did, but they were very powerful. He's like the Silent Bob of the MCU. When he speaks, everybody listens.
Until their eardrums rupture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back to Doctor Strange.
Yes. And what if Stephen Strange had lost his heart, not his hands?
Is that your Jeffrey Wright imitation?
It was just imposing movie voice. I couldn't do a Jeffrey Wright impersonation, I don't think, effectively.
Yeah. How well do you think that played? The relationship between them. You mentioned this earlier, that it felt like they were already broken up, and you kind of get the feeling that he did still care about her because he was trying to write her all the time. But when he was sick and she was trying to help him, he just pushed her away and pushed her away.
Yeah, well, but then he was feeling helpless.
Yeah.
But to me, the fact that that this happened during what I think of as a rocky portion of their relationship, to me, it was like, and how is she his heart? When, if she was his heart, he shouldn't have been in our reality able to just shove her aside so easily. So, but yeah.
Maybe in that reality, he wasn't a narcissist.
Sure, but again, then you're starting to parse things, and what if it's always supposedly just been like, we're changing one thing.
Yeah.
Not, the character is different, and that's why things go differently. It's supposed so. Yeah, I mean, I like the episode fine, but I felt that to me, it felt like too much. More than one thing switched.
It was a stretch. I'll give you that.
So, because when they said lost his heart, like right at the beginning, what if Stephen Strange lost his heart, not his hands? I was like, what heart?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, he's going to have a heart problem. It's
Yeah.
kind of like Tony Stark. He's going to get a pacemaker.
I kind of wonder too if isn't that like the ultimate fridging episode?
Oh, wow. Paging Gail Simone. Paging Gail Simone.
But I mean, seriously, it's like, ooh, we'll make his whole raison d'etre the death of his girlfriend.
Yes. We're going to kill her more times than you've seen the death of Bruce Wayne's parents on live action.
Yeah. Q death 13, Q death 14.
What if he never goes to her house? The building blows up?
That was the other thing. It was like that didn't, like her death is a fixed point in time. Well, I mean, things, there is, while correlation is not causation, there is causation.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as causation. So randomly, the universe just hates Christine.
It suddenly became an episode of Final Destination.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they went with something as mundane as a mugger at the pizza place and not some kind of accident that sent like metal tubes flying through the window and impaling her or something.
Yeah. Or something causes one of those big metal pizza paddles with the long handle to fly across, and
the oven explodes, the door handle flies off.
Yeah,
and kills her.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just like, okay, we get it. Like, what's the line from Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Skip a bit, brother.
Couldn't he have traveled back further? I think he probably could have, but I'm not sure how he would have changed things if Christina's death. I mean, maybe he could have gone back and made it so he never met her if he just wanted to save her, but that wasn't his thing. He's still selfish because he wasn't trying just to save her. He was trying to save her for him. He was trying to save her in his life. If it was just a matter of saving her life, then yeah, he could have gone back, never met her, gotten her fired so she lived somewhere else. I mean,
but would that have made? But as the ancient one explained, she had to die to motivate him to become Doctor Strange so he could stop Dormammu, and right. You were mentioning earlier. So there, like, even if he'd gone back farther, whatever change he would have made, she would have looped around and they would have met. And yeah. Boy, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, fridge. Because they literally wrote the entire episode, so she has to die to motivate him.
Yeah. Also. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it may have been self-conscious. They may have specifically been doing that to say, this is not a good way to do this, and that'll become clearer as everything comes together. I hope, rather than just...
As we get to the top of the hour, I'm going to bring up something I didn't realize until this, but for the best of my knowledge, that's not how time travel works in the MCU. When the Avengers went back in time, going through the quantum realm, they were there and the Hulk was there. All their normal selves were there. they were there in the same space as their counterparts. That's how Captain America fought Captain America.
And that's how we learned about America's ass.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go for that joke. How is it that he's transporting back his consciousness into his own body?
Magic?
Does the time stone work differently at the time? Because it's not a magical spell. He's using the time stone. And the time stone is cosmic.
Yep, I actually agree with you. I was just, I guess he wasn't wearing a hat, so it would have been sorcery, not wizardry.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just it was odd, as you say, unless he technically used the time stone to go back, and then he used astral projection to take over his body, and they just didn't want to get into that.
I didn't think astral projection could take over a body.
Oh, have you not heard of possession?
Well, yeah, but
I'm not saying it's likely or good. I'm just saying, you could certainly do have a reasonable hand wave, but I think that it was odd considering the Eye of Agamotto never seemed to work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, he was able to age and de-age something, but not, well, I guess we really didn't see it used that often.
Now, well, certainly not for
Well, when he was going against Dormammu,
yeah,
it was just redoing time.
Right.
Oh, but see, yeah, maybe it does work that way because Dormammu realized it was happening over and over again.
Sure, but he's a hypercosmic being, so
yeah,
he probably has some bit of cosmic awareness going on.
But Doctor Strange also knew it was happening over and over again.
Well, that's because in his timeline, he reset it. So it wasn't, I mean, he reset it, but he did remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So maybe the time stone does work that way, or the Eye of Agamotto does work that way, that you can travel your physical form back and keep your consciousness separate, or keep your consciousness at its... Wow. I could think of some good uses for that.
Trippy. Not to be confused with Trimpy, who drew the Hulk really well.
Yes. Herb Trimpy.
Yeah.
So.
All
right. So we're gonna assume that the time stone or the Eye of Agamotto works differently than going through the quantum realm.
Yes.
That they're different forms of time travel. So we're gonna let Marvel have that until Kevin Feige does his AMA.
Yes. And then we shall grill him ruthlessly.
Yes. Oh no, we can bring Ruth.
Okay. We will grill him ruthfully. We'll bring a bunch of Ruths.
Yeah, I like it.
Even a baby
Hell,
Ruth.
I'll take him out to Ruth's Chris if he likes, and I'll buy him dinner if he wants to answer these questions for me.
And I will go along, and you can buy me dinner too.
I'm not sure that's necessary.
I think it's a great idea.
Then I got to fly you out from damn Detroit.
I didn't say that, but it's generous of you to offer, so sure. I'm sure you have points.
I never go anywhere.
What, you don't fly to the desert? I just assumed you flew to Vegas, rented a car, and came back.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. No, I do the human cannonball trick. I just I get shot up there, and then they've got one cannon up there that shoots me back. Yeah.
Do you use the official slogan of the human cannonball? Or is it Bullet Man? Fire me, boy! Little tick reference thrown in there.
I've never said that in my entire life.
Well,
The
try it.
visuals when the time. Hey, Brian's bringing us back. Thank you, Brian. Visuals when the time stone magic turned red was really cool. Yeah, I'm kind of curious what that's about. Does that mean that the power has been overwhelmed by the demonic stuff?
I don't think it's been overwhelmed. I think it's been tainted.
Tainted? Okay. Go on. Explain.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just kind of a soft sell on that idea.
I was going to give you a chance to talk for a bit.
Oh, well. Why don't I pretend to be you while you drink?
I've already drank now.
Oh, it's too late now. No, I just, to me, the idea was that his actions were tainting everything that he did. And I felt like some of that, as most actual magicians will tell you, intent has a lot to do with, and with his intent, I think had been tinged or corrupted to a certain extent, and that's why we were getting the reddish tinge to the thing. And
do you think that's a symbol of the chaos magic? Because in the Marvel Universe, chaos magic is red.
That's a good point. I had not actually thought about that. So, well, of course, we also have to keep in mind that there is a limited palette. I mean, there's only so many colors you can change things. I thought it was more of an emblem of darkness. Of course, Agatha Harkness seemed to think that the Scarlet Witch was a harbinger of doom. So,
yeah. No, but maybe her younger sisters are. Or are they the older sisters? Kate and Ashley.
Yeah. And yet, doom has not come upon us.
Which stone was the ether? Is that the reality stone?
Ether was the that's a good question. I think it was the reality stone, because the ether was kind of black and red.
Yeah. But perhaps that was the time stone was then tapping into reality changing.
But would that make a difference? I mean, in other words, he's still only dealing with time. So,
but he's dealing with time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he started taking all these demons in too.
It's true.
So, I think by association, it would also affect the. Wow, it's brighter in here now. It would affect the Eye of Agamotto.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yep.
I had not really thought of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that through all of that, he's very observant. He starts sensing that the Watcher is there, everything else, but he doesn't realize that Obang is Cagliostro, and he doesn't realize that he was split in two.
And I should have watched it a couple more times, because that was the Ancient One split him in two.
Yeah.
Which I did not quite follow.
They gave us a little hint at the beginning, because there's the surgery that he's being celebrated for.
Yeah.
Is a surgery that they do to help stop epileptic seizures by separating the two halves, the two hemispheres of the brain.
Uh,
So in a sense, that's what she did, is she separated him into two that coexisted in the timeline.
right, right. No. Yeah, it was. I think it was done fairly, but I still was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
It did seem a little Deus ex machina, but if any character is going to involve Deus ex machina,
It's the
it's
angel.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about mystic stuff, so
Yeah.
it's not like you can really go like, hey, in this magic show they use some kind of weird magic.
Yep. Hey, yeah, there's all this magic I didn't understand. This didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Where would you put this compared to the other 3 episodes?
Well, I think you know that Captain Carter is number 1 for me.
But is that because it was a good story, or is that because of your love affair for Captain America?
I believe you know that Captain Carter was number 1 for me, and I refuse to answer your impertinent question. See, I would go Captain Carter, Star-Lord, and then wait, have there been 3 or 4?
Or
4.
the Yellow Jacket murder mystery?
Oh yeah. Ooh, that's rough. I think I think I'll put this at 3 and put the Yellow Jacket murder mystery at 4. What is your ranking on that?
I still absolutely love the Yellow Jacket murder mystery as 1.
Really?
Yep. I will actually put the Doctor Strange one at 2. Star-Lord at 3 and Captain Carter at 4.
So you literally just flipped my list.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's amazing we get along at all.
Well, but opposites make good for a show. You know?
Yes. Well, and as Paula Abdul reminded us with MC Scat Cat.
Yes.
By the way,
Brian,
for everybody who's far younger than us, that was a music video reference from the, was it late 80s, early 90s?
Yes.
Yes. It was
Brian,
back when MTV played music.
Yes, all 3 days they did that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was very interesting. We were both very deliberate in like picking that, and I was like, wait a second.
Because I think the first 2 were just Brian owned the album. Okay. I think the first 2 were very fluffy. You know, there wasn't much depth to them or consequences. They just felt like, hey, wouldn't it be neat if, and it was just this big rosy picture where there, again, just didn't feel like there was a lot of consequences. But you flip it to the last 2, and there is some serious story. There's some serious depth to these stories, Hank Pym has always been on the edge, and even in the MCU. So to see him snap with the death of Hope after already believing he lost his wife, seeing Doctor Strange snap for death and stuff, I think these were much more emotional and much deeper stories.
Well, it sounds to me like you feel that only tragedy can show emotional depth. I think we saw a lot of I think we saw a lot with the Captain Carter about Steve and Peggy and their relationship and their love for each other, and that it was not it was not dependent on him turning into a massive hunk I
true.
think yes, and the consequence. I think the consequence doesn't stand out quite so much because it's reversed, and it's simply that Peggy is the one who undergoes a similar trauma to what Steve went through.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of it is that Steve already had his trauma built in. The Captain America already had the trauma built in of jumping into the future and having and losing your lover, your true love. Whereas Doctor Strange didn't really have tragedy baked in beyond, like, I mean, certainly the problem with his hands, but at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, he has transitioned from I was, a master of the medical arts, and now I'm a master of the mystic arts. So there wasn't that same level. I mean, I suppose the loss of the ancient one, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. In other words, so I think that the other ones, there's more tragedy built in to the story, and again, I thought the idea of T'Challa or Cha-Cha making such a radical difference to the cosmic aspect of the Marvel Universe, I found fascinating and believable, even though the only tragedy is Peter Quill either getting extinguished or helping Ego destroy the universe. So I found the emotional impact from the first two much stronger than the other. The last two seem more like, to me, dark for dark's sake.
See, I've always been a believer on Doctor Strange. A lot of writers handle Doctor Strange that he's basically on the bleeding edge, and he has to be really balanced because he could easily slip into the evil side. He's always just skating that balanced line between good and evil. And I think that's what this episode was about, is something happened to push him over, and it wouldn't take much to push him, and then we could see how much he sinks into the quicksand, which is what it's about. I don't think his relationship with Christine had to be that big a deal for it to work because he was always on that edge. I don't think that was played that well in the movie, but that's how he's played in the comics. There are certain things that he keeps himself from doing because it would be the first step down that slippery slope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest tragedy in the Captain Carter one is just how screwed up Steve Rogers is at the end of this, because the girl he loves is now gone 70 years later. He's got a bunch of physical things wrong with him anyway, and he's running around in an iron suit taking a bunch of damage. The odds are he's not going to live 10 years past where we saw him, where Peggy got to have an entire life, have kids, and a husband, and Steve is probably going to be dead.
Right. So I mean, to me, that's I don't know. I found the first two much more interesting, but I think that has to do with taste.
Yeah, and mind you, don't get me wrong. It's not like big gaps between 1, 2, and 3. They're all close together and could easily slide around.
Yeah, and I hate ranking things.
Yeah.
I'm awful at it. People go, "What are your top 5 movies?" And I go, "I don't know." Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew. So we got to get you back on Facebook, Andrew, so I can bring you in on the show. So yeah, we haven't seen the first temptation of Doctor Strange in the MCU yet. What do you think about the fact that we have what may be the second appearance of Tentacle Boy or Shumagorath, though they've never named him.
Yes, we're actually guessing that it's Shumagorath.
Right.
But yeah, I think that that's hinting that he both may be a key part of the wrap to this season of What If, and also hints that he may be a prime mover in the
Doctor Strange movie?
multiverse of madness.
Yep.
And there's the spider guy thing coming up too.
Yeah. Yeah, what's that? Spider Ham? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Played by John Hamm.
Yeah. Andrew agrees that the art style seems to lead that it's the same beastie.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're just throwing these tentacle beasts in for the fun of it. I think it's going to be connected because I don't think that. Well, then again, a bunch of artists sitting around drawing tentacles. It's kind of a thing. So,
well, what do you mean?
Perhaps trying to
next you'll be saying
the audience.
Now you're saying there's a whole genre of. You'll be saying there's a whole genre of animation that involves titillating tentacles.
Could absolutely be.
But
Andrew, thank you. Andrew actually was looking to see if the tentacles showed up in ShangChi. Neither of us have actually seen ShangChi yet. We're going to try to go this week so we can talk about it next week. That is definitely the plan. I'm looking at probably Thursday.
I may actually see it tomorrow. I should have seen it today, but I just could not bring myself to leave the apartment. There's a music and art and something festival going down a couple blocks from me, and it's messing everything up. And I was just like, I am not ready to be around that kind of crowd, even in the open air.
I went and saw Free Guy when it came out, but I went up in the desert where there's a lot less people. I didn't go up this weekend because my house is empty this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
My nephew and my mom went to go visit my brother in Arizona, and I had to stay around and take care of the dogs, so didn't get up the hill. So, and I didn't want to go to the theaters here because they're going to be absolutely packed, and I'm just not ready for that yet, you know? So probably Thursday morning I'll go early showing.
Yeah. I suppose I could go Tuesday, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually surprised I didn't go today, but it just like every once in a while you just get something in your brain that goes like, nope, that's not happening, and sometimes you just got to listen to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a kind of an interesting weekend. I barely left the house. I went to the store on Friday morning, bought whatever I wanted for the weekend. Just been here with the dogs. It's been kind of nice.
I think I'm alone in my building this weekend. My building's only got 4 apartments in it.
Oh.
So and none of the people are parked out back where they normally park. So I assume everybody ran off for Labor Day.
Yeah.
So it's been very quiet. I very seldom hear the bands from down the couple of blocks away. So that's been okay. But yeah, I have needed, with all my various and sundry injuries that I've been inflicting on myself, I definitely needed something to just take some time. vampire zombies have tried to eat me, so not quite in the Omega Man situation.
You just randomly driving other people's cars?
No, I had to rent a blankety blank car.
So you are driving somebody else's car.
I am technically driving somebody else's car, but it's costing me. Talking about being tasked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So next week's, we don't know quite yet what the next what if's going to be. It could be the Killmonger saves Iron Man or Tony Stark episode,
right?
Or it could be Party Thor. We've also got the Marvel Zombies.
Yep.
And then we know there's an episode that we're going to meet Gamora in Thanos' armor. And then there's the big finale that looks like it's going to go up against Ultron with the Infinity Stones. So those would be the 5 episodes that are left. Not Anthony Zerba coming to evict you with fireballs. I know who Anthony Zerba is. I don't get that reference. Was Anthony Zerba in the Omega Man?
I know the name, and I can't put a face to it right now, which is sad. But
I've watched him on Mannix and about every other show from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
So, I don't recall, but it's been, oh gosh, Anthony Zerb. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time. I just remember the opening of Omega Man with him driving around the empty city, which I always thought was a great opening for a movie.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to wrap it up here. We're coming up to the end of the show. Andrew, Brian, thanks for joining in and chiming in. And everybody else who said hello, Adam Deschanel for coming by, Cody Taylor, Ben Balat, and Kathy Todd, who all hit the like and or heart buttons. We'd appreciate that. If Andrew hasn't done that, he's on a different, that's not Facebook, but please hit the like buttons, hit thumbs up. Those are always helpful. Thank you all. We will be back next week, hopefully with a ShangChi conversation and whatever number 5 is on What If. Paul, folks can find you at Storyville, right?
Storyville.com, Storyville on Twitter, on Instagram, on the Facebooks. And Dan, where can they find you?
They can find me there. And anywhere else that, I don't know.
Oh, I always thought your name had an M in it. Well, most of the people that we know in common talk about you as Damn Wickline.
Oh, you've been talking to Jim McLaughlin, haven't you?
Are you kidding? Jim's not going to let me talk to him. I'm lucky when he responds to me on Twitter.
Standing in a lobby one time waiting for to check in, suddenly somebody slugs me hard in the arm. I turn around as McLaughlin. Hey, Wickline, how you doing? I'm like, do I owe you money?
Why are you hurting me?
All right. That's it, folks. We're out of here. Have a great week. Take care. Go see Shang-Chi, and we'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.